All right, shalom, shalom. I'd like to first and foremost start by giving infinite praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachak like to say shalom, Washem, Kabah, God, Walla Rakab, Zaquayim Nawa, Wahashala, Yakim Nawa, which of course is double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and shalom, Wa Barakim, La Karim, Shal Yasha'Allah, which is peace and blessings unto the elect. I'm the brother Dawud from the DC Church, back with another short lesson through the Spirit and power, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. And real quick, just want to provide a prophecy update on what's been going down, because we understand that the state of Israel is a major player when it comes to prophecy. All right, we understand that, you know, things are going to heat up and intensify between Israel and, of course, the Palestinians, namely the Iranians. All right, and you know, the other sons of Ishmael that live in that area, the Middle East area. Okay, there's heavy tensions between them. And we also do know that the latest news, Trump has secured major deals, $1 trillion deals with these countries. I believe it states it in the article, but pretty much, you know, tensions between U.S. and Israel are now erupting, you know. So just wanted to read a little bit of this article, grab some precepts. Lord willing, this may be edifying to the elect. It says, Trump frustrated by Gaza war wants Netanyahu to wrap it up, U.S. officials say. It says, President Trump has been frustrated by ongoing war in Gaza and upset by images of suffering Palestinian children, and has told his aides to tell Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu he wants him to wrap it up. Two White House official tells AXIOS. It's like, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but that's basically the name of this news outlet that I'm reading from. It says, why it matters, U.S. and Israel officials deny that Trump is prepared to abandon Israel or that he is applying intense pressure on Netanyahu, but they admit there are growing policy differences between a president who wants to end the war and a prime minister who is massively expanding it. It says the president is frustrated about what is happening in Gaza. He wants the war to end. He wants the hostages to come home. He wants aid to go in and wants to start rebuilding Gaza. One White House official said, says driving the news in the days since Trump's trip to the region, the U.S. has been pressuring both Israel and Hamas to accept new proposal presented by White House envoy Steve Witkoff for a hostage and ceasefire deal. It says Witkoff has been speaking directly with Netanyahu and his top advisor, Ron Dermer, and Hamas leadership through back channel facilitated by Palestinian-American businessman Bashara Baba. So basically, you know, U.S. stepped in and they have officials talking to, you know, both sides trying to get this war ended between Hamas and Israel. But Israel's heavily pushing for war. And I believe they actually staged that first event that happened where they said Hamas, which is a quote unquote, you know, terrorist group, what they call a terrorist group, basically a militia, a Palestinian militia that was formed in the region of Gaza, likely to, you know, protect its interests. They claim that Hamas, you know, pretty much started this by, you know, I believe they said they started by a bombing that happened that they did on some Israelis, and they killed like 1,200 of them and took some of them captive, you know, which that could have been staged to give them reason, obviously, to, you know, invade the Gaza Strip and pretty much get them up out of there, you know, pretty much take over that land, you know. So, you know, like the scriptures say, there's going to be wars and rumors of wars, you know. So you know, who really knows the 100% details? All we know is that these things are happening according to prophecy. All right, we're still seeing wars and rumors of wars on the surface. Okay, and this is exactly what prophecy said would happen. It says the negotiations have shown little progress. Meanwhile, the Israeli Defense Forces are proceeding with an operation to displace all 2 million Palestinians in Gaza to a humanitarian zone and flatten most of the enclave. So they really want to just get all of them out of there, flatten it. And man, there was this AI video that came out a couple of weeks back, maybe a month ago or something like that, called Trump Gaza, which was basically their plans on what to do with Gaza after this war is over and after they, get those Palestinians up out of there. They want to turn it into some luxury tourist zone, of course, for Israel's benefit. But it's all fluff, man. It's a plan. It's a dream, It says the logjam in the talks of the situation on the ground convinced Vice President Vance to scrap plans for a visit to Israel this week. His decision sheds light on how the U.S. feels about the current Israeli policy in Gaza. The other side, it says an Israeli official told Axios, I believe that's how you pronounce the news outlet name, that at the moment Netanyahu doesn't feel strong pressure from Trump. Quote, if the president wants a hostage and ceasefire deal in Gaza, he needs to put much more pressure on both sides, the official said. He could have been referring to Hamas that he's saying he should put more pressure on. But who knows? It says other leaders are attempting to apply pressure. The leaders of the UK, France, and Canada issued a statement on Monday threatening to take steps against Israel over the war in Gaza. And there's also been intervention, I believe, by the Chinese government. They've been dropping off aid to the Palestinians on the Gaza Strip. They've been flying planes over the region and dropping off care packages. You see, so a lot of these countries, hate the state of Israel, because they see what they've done. And this is exactly, and I'm not going to say his name, because I don't want my video to get flagged, but his name starts with an A, or his name starts with an H, last name starts with an H and ends with an Hitler. All right, this is exactly what he was trying to prevent from happening to his country. Because if you remember, Israel used to be the inhabitants of the Palestinians up until, I believe, 1943. Or Slovakia, 1948, if I'm not mistaken. That's when the Balfour Declaration came into place. And they basically, the Jews, or the Israelis basically started to occupy that land and they started to claim it for themselves. You see? So this is exactly what he didn't want to happen to his land, because remember back during the time where, back during that time, there was a lot of sodomy going on in Germany. There was, the Israelis were taking over businesses, lending out predatory loans. All right, we're talking about the chief nation, the chief evil nation, okay? When you read Psalms 83, who's the first nation that it mentions? All right, matter of fact, let's grab that and we'll come back to the article. And I already got Joel 3. I'm going to come back to that. This is Psalms. Yep. Let me just make it one. We'll keep the NLT up. Yeah, Psalms 83. In verse 1, it says, keep thou not silence, O Lord. Hold not thy peace and be not still, O Yahweh. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate me, that hate thee, have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. All right, we of course know that the true Israel consists of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, we go back to the biblical Israelites. It says, "For they have consulted together with one consent, and they are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom." Okay, of Edom, and of the Ishmaelites, and of the Moabites, and of the Hagarenes, and of Gabal, and of Ammon, and Amalek. Okay, but the first nation that it mentioned was who? Edom. And we understand that the chief duke or tribe of Edom, all right, are the Amalekites. Okay, they're the ones who, pretty much rule the world right now. All right, you got the top 7 Jewish banking families that rule and basically own world currencies. All right, or national currencies. Okay, they own the Federal Reserve. All right, which basically orchestrates the money in the United States. And if you control the money, you control everything else. You see? So this is exactly what Hitler, all right, didn't want to happen in his country. All right, and he was a nationalist. Okay, he was against these things. He was against sodomy. He was against, all right, these people invading his land, lending out predatory loans and taking over all of the businesses and promoting debauchery. All right, he was against all that. You see, but now they paint him as a devil, and then they stage a hoax and say that he did all of these things when in actuality, those things are falsely so called. But I'm gonna just go ahead and continue on this. It says Netanyahu rejected their call and accused the leaders of London, Ottawa, and Paris of offering huge prizes for a genocidal attack on Israel on October 7th while inviting more such atrocities. All right, it says the latest British government announced on Monday that it's suspending free trade deals negotiations with Israel, imposed new sanctions on Israeli settlers involved in the attacks on Palestinians in the West Bank, and summoned the Israeli ambassador to the Foreign Office of London. It says state of play. One area where Trump has put pressure on Netanyahu over the last 2 weeks is the Israeli total freeze on humanitarian aid deliveries to Gaza. The White House officials told Axios, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, the president was upset by pictures suffering children and babies in Gaza and pressured the Israelis to open the gates. You see, so there's a lot of children, there's a lot of babies that are dying. All right, people getting bombed, blown up. Okay, families, all right, losing their homes. It just looks terrible there, man. All right, it's all types of atrocities taking place. It says on Sunday the Israeli cabinet approved the resumption of aid deliveries. All right, let's skip down just a little bit. Behind the scenes, it says while Trump felt his Middle East trip was a success, he believes the war in Gaza is holding back his plans for the region, a senior White House official said. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I think that's the end of it. Yep. Okay, so we might as well finish it out. It says, what are they saying? The president may be saying, hey, listen, let's try to end the war. He might speak strongly, but his support is ironclad. Trump hostage response envoy Aiden Bowler told Fox News on Monday. He stressed that a Washington Post report claiming the administration threatened to abandon Israel was fake. Okay, so at this point, basically what we know is that, obviously relations haven't been fully abolished. There's still, at least on the surface, no tension between U.S. and Israel, but obviously there are some policies that are differing, all right, which can cause friction. And also, again, Trump signed some major deals with surrounding nations that are enemies of Israel. All right, such as Saudi Arabia. Okay, you got Saudi Arabia, you got I believe Qatar and the UAE. Okay, obviously they all support Palestine. You see, and namely Hamas. All right, but Trump just signed some deals with them, so who knows, what friction that could cause between him and the Israelis. But I'm gonna go ahead and read these precepts. I'm gonna go back to, I'm gonna end this real soon. Joel, the 3rd chapter. It's like that's Job. Joel chapter 3, and you know what? How about we read it in the NLT? Joel chapter 3 and verse 9, it says, say to the nations far and wide, get ready for war, call out your best warriors, let all your fighting men advance for the attack. It says, hammer your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Train even your weakling to be warriors. Okay? So basically, they're turning those instruments of agriculture into instruments and weapons of war. And really, that's just a representation of the times and the seasons. All right, this is not a time of agriculture, of building, of those things of that nature. This is more of a time of war. All right, of preparation, of gearing up, storing arsenal. All right, that's what this is a time of. Okay, it says, verse 11, come quickly, all you nations everywhere, gather together in the valley. And now, O Lord, call out your warriors. Let the nations be called to arms. Let them march to the valley of Jehoshaphat. There I, the Lord, will sit to pronounce judgment on all of them. You see? So really, all of these nations are gearing up for war. I seen another article that said Germany is, investing more money into their military just in case Russia tries to push forward after Ukraine. Okay. And so all of these nations are preparing for war, and really none of them are going to win. The only one who's going to win at the end of the day is the nation of Israel. All right. Everybody loses in a nuclear war. Okay. And that's exactly where we see things heading. Okay. It may not persist or perceive that way at this very moment, but we know that most of these countries, and a lot of these smaller countries, that you wouldn't even think, but they possess nuclear capabilities. Okay. Now, how far are we from the time to where those ICBMs get sent off from now? All right, we don't know, but we do know that we're in that season 100%, man. Okay, so I'm gonna just read this last precept that I had. I believe it's Revelation 16 and verse 16. It says, he gathered them together into the place in the Hebrew tongue called Armageddon. Okay, Armageddon. Let me get that in the blue letter real quick to see what the definition of that is. So let's get that 16, and we're gonna get the Strong's and interlinear and concordance. All right, Salakia. Okay. Let me go back. There we go. It says the hill or city of Megiddo. All right. And then let's get into the Strong's definition of Hebrew. Or let's see. Okay. All right, Megiddo Hill, it says, be. Let's try this. There we go. All right. So the definition of it, it says biblical hill of Megiddo, an archaeological site on the Esdradon, south of present-day Haifa in Israel. It says place where the last battle between good and evil will be fought in Israel. It says a dramatic and catastrophic conflict, typically seen as likely to destroy the world or human race. All right, now we know that that's not true. We understand that it's not going to destroy the human race. Is it going to destroy Israel? Yes. All right. Is it going to destroy, most of parts of the world? Yes. But ultimately, the elect are going to be saved up out of this. All right. And then you're going to have remnants of people all throughout the world. Okay. Which that's going to be the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven. All right. Where we take rulership of the earth. Okay. So I just wanted to get that last point and bring out, the meaning of Armageddon and how it goes in, how Israel plays into that, and how it pretty much goes into these last days. And so with that, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahshua, Bashim Rakakadash, Lord willing, this edifying to the elect. Shalom.